So light is kind of everything to me, because when I take my pictures, then I'm basically see myself printing the pictures in a darkroom at the same time. My favorite has always been black and white, medium format, square film. You know, it's fun when you get a nice black and white negative and you take it in the darkroom and you're printing, and you become just keenly aware of all those little steps that are on like a grayscale from white to black. So if you take away having to think about horizontal or vertical, and you take away having to think about color, and you're left with just a very basic camera, it's a really kind of pure, simple operation where, you know, I see something and I get that gut feeling and I take my picture. If you sit there and overthink it, sometimes the moment disappears and you don't have a picture. I think some of the biggest influences on my work, people like Dorothy Lang and Walker Evans and Marion Post Wolcott, Jean Vachon, Arthur Rothstein, just all the Farm Security Administration photographers. You know, all those pictures really seem to, address society and history and mankind. And then having kind of a photojournalism bent, I was always in love with people like Cartier-Bresson and Marc Ribot and some of the great photojournalists. I worked for a portrait photographer for a short time, Arnold Newman, who is a very famous portrait photographer. A different kind of work. It was more very controlled studio work, but I really I learned a lot about taking pictures of people. So I think I've learned a lot from all these people whose work I've looked at and worked with, and more recently, one of my big photographer crushes is a woman named Vivian Mayer. Wandered around Chicago, New York, taking just basically street pictures with a Rolleiflex, which is a twin lens camera, 2¼ by 2¼ with a fixed lens. The pictures were all technically perfect and beautiful compositions, and yet she never wanted to become famous or have shows or be published or get her work in galleries. It was just a very personal thing. I've always been interested in what I call fringe people, and people who live differently than most of the people in this world do. People who just kind of don't embrace the status quo. When I first went to a ranch on the California-Nevada border, it was so bare it really reminded me of a Farm Security Administration picture. And so the light bulb went on, and I thought, okay, so I want to photograph on this ranch. That was the beginning of 25 years of going out to ranches and living with these cowboys, whether they're at the ranch or the cow camps out in the desert. And I would just try to follow along and keep my eyes open and keep my mouth shut and observe and capture a slice of life that most people just don't get to see or will never be able to see. So, partly it was for my amusement, partly it was like my interest in humanity, partly it was just an excuse to have something that was completely my own, and a place I could go to and come up with a great photograph. It's a cliche, the disappearing cowboy, the disappearing West. And so on one hand it's a cliche, on the other hand it's very true. Technology it's a blessing and a curse. When it comes to photography, it has a pretty interesting impact. I think in the past, all photographers had to be craftsmen. You had to have an understanding of light and optics and chemistry and the mechanics of a camera. You have to know your craft. You have to plan. You have to anticipate. So in my work, I have to be super judicious about every frame. Conversely, with digital, depending on the camera and the camera settings, using a 64 megabyte memory card, that card can hold anywhere from 200 to 10,000 images. So I do shoot all sorts of film and as well as digital, but my preference is film because I like the craftsmanship factor. I could set a camera on a tripod and put it on a street corner, set it so it takes a picture at intervals, and go have coffee somewhere. And I bet that when I came back and I looked through the images, I would find at least one decent picture. So that might be an advantage for amateurs, but it's a disadvantage and a stumbling block, a huge wall actually, if you want to become a craftsman, because you don't have to think. And in a world where now everyone is a photographer, to be a real artist, because of the huge bloat of mediocre and banal photography, I think the bar gets higher and higher and higher for producing excellent work. Digitally, you point your camera at something, you push the button, the camera does all the thinking for you. If you do screw up, Photoshop can cure many mistakes. So if you want to print black and white, you have to be a craftsman. Each print is unique. Each print is printed by a human being and not some computer algorithm. I believe my subconscious kicks in, it bypasses my brain, and I make a picture. I feel something and I react.